How to play using the Abysscraft Showdown Deck from Shadowverse Evolve. So before we further dig into this deck, let's look at the contents and the card list. Of course, the deck itself comes with the same one as previously, a leader card, your code card. Yeah, you can just pause this video, take it if you want it, because I don't really need it. The punch out stat counters for you to use during play. Your main deck 40 cards. So let's look at the main deck contents. 3 copies of the cover card, Ice Shield Rig Gilded Autocrat. Hope I didn't butcher that. And then 3 copies of Demon Lord H-Star, 3 copies of Chris Beyond the Patch, 3 copies of Great Pig Corpse, and then 3 copies of Wretch, 3 copies of Kagero Swordbound Soul, and 3 copies of Skeleton Dreamer, 3 copies of Ilganu Horror Astray, 2 copies of Grave Desecration, that's an amulet card, 2 copies of Wandering Chef, 1 copy of Soul Strike, a copy of Dead to Rights, 3 copies of Dead to Rights, my mistake over there, and then 3 copies of number 6 Milteo the Lovers, 2 copies of Wretched Thrice, and 3 copies of Dublame, Duke and Dame. And then of course we have the Evolve deck, which features the evolved forms of Gilded Aristocrat, Wretch, the Lovers, as well as Duke and Dame. Oh, you also have the evolved version of Wandering Chef. And then as for your token deck, it comes with a copy of Magitrain, 4 copies of Bullet Bike, and 4 copies of empty tokens, which you can draw on your own to customize your own token cards if you need to, as well as your evolve points if you're going second, and your super evolve points. Now let's get a move on. The Abysscraft deck main focus is Necrocharge. Cards of Necrocharge can only activate their abilities based on how many cards you have in your cemetery. Most cards would activate their Necrocharge abilities with only having 10 cards in the cemetery, while more powerful ones will only be activated once you hit 20 cards in the cemetery, which will give a much more devastating effect in game. Now you have a rough idea how does this deck's mechanic work, so let's figure out a win con. If you notice, this deck benefits from sending cards to the cemetery and activate Necrocharge by having specific number of cards in there. Now we're going to use that information to create our own unique win con. Now here are the cards we'll be focusing for this playthrough. Grave Desecration, Ilganu the Horror Astray, Skeleton Dreamer, Kagero Swordbound Soul, Great Pig Corpse. Theoretically, you can deal up to 22 life points damage exactly if you can play all these cards and their abilities consistently. However, some cards you might need to stall the game, but for today we'll just focus on a 5-turn victory. So let's get to it. Game start. Turn 1, summon Ilganu Horror Astray as your first line of offense. Turn 2, summon Kagero Swordbound Soul and bury the top 2 cards of your deck, starting the cemetery count at 2 cards. And then, perform a direct attack with Ilganu, totaling the damage dealt to 1. Turn 3, perform a direct attack with Gnu and Kagero for a total of 3 damage, totaling the damage dealt to 4. And then summon Great Pig Corpse to bury Ilganu, which triggers Ilganu's last words to bury the top card of your deck, now with the cemetery built up to 4 cards. Turn 4, summon the amulet card Grave Desecration to bury the top 2 cards of your deck to the cemetery, and then summon another copy of Great Pig Corpse to bury the amulet card, making the cemetery count up to 7 cards. And then just to end your turn, attack if you already summoned Kagero and Great Pig to deal total of 5 damage, which brings up the total damage count to 9. Finally, turn 5.
Hopefully your opponent's leader doesn't heal up, or your opponent uses any cards to get rid of your other followers. This time around, summon a Skeletal Dreamer to be used for bury by your third copy of Great Pig Corpse, in return to gain a Bullet Bike Amulet token, as well as you get to bury the top card of your deck into the cemetery. Your cemetery count is now up to 9 cards, and then use the Bullet Bike Amulet token's ability to bury itself to increase 1 attack point value to one of your able to attack followers on the field, triggering Great Pig's ability, well, its second ability, to summon another copy of the buried token onto the field. Remember, you have 2 more copies of Great Pig Corpse, therefore you can trigger the same ability twice more, powering up one of your followers' power level impressively. And last but not least, just perform an all-out direct attack for game, totaling damage to 22. Now that, my friends, is game! Should things fail, build up your cemetery to 20 cards to pull off 6 Milteo the Lover's Evolve form ability to wipe out your opponent's board, as well as forcing them down to 6 damage to finish off your opponent's next turn. For further stalling to meet the Lover's 20 Necro charge, why not use this deck's cover card, the Ishildrick Gilded Autocrat and its Evolve form, which allows you to force your opponents to discard a card from your hand to their cemetery by putting it on engage mode, or its Evolve form allows you to force your opponent's unengaged followers to be engaged, therefore you can kill off your own followers to build up your drop zone, therefore meeting the Lover's ultimate Necro charge ability.
And that's the end of our explanation video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and next time you see me, maybe you'll see me do a proper playtesting video out of it, so you get a much more clearer picture. If you'd like to get this deck, just scan the QR code or click on the link in the description box to get them today. And join us every Friday at HobbySpot to join our weekly Shadowverse Showdown tournament, where you get some nice promo cards. Other than that, when I'll see you guys again, let's showdown!